Thank you very much. I first want to thank Mr. Do and his colleagues for organizing this conference. And I congratulate Mr. Do for his unique initiative to associate together literature and human rights in North Korea. I think it's a first and a unique initiative. Before I start my keynote speech, I would like to say where we are coming from. So from Brussels. Brussels means European Union, European Parliament. For many years now, almost 15 years, unfortunately, we have been the only NGO in Brussels organizing events on human rights in North Korea. And last week, we organized an event at the Parliament with Mr. Do. We gave him the opportunity to present the book of Bandi and to talk extensively about the background of this literary work. So now the members of the European Parliament and also other institutions of the EU know the existence of this book, the existence of Mr. Bandi, and I think that will not remain without any impact on the policies of the European Union. So I was asked to talk about human rights in general in North Korea for about 20 minutes, so I will really keep to the time that has been allotted to me. Pyongyang has been in the dock for many, many years now about its human rights record. And next year, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea will celebrate the 70th anniversary of its creation in the aftermath of the Second World War. North Korea is the last vestige of the most repressive form of Stalinist communism, but it's still alive and well. Since 1948, North Korea has been ruled by a single family, the Kim dynasty, which has imposed a single ideology, the Juche, to a population that is now estimated at about 25 million people. North Korea is a one-party system which has in its grip all the powers, legislative and executive, as well as the judiciary. North Korea has never tolerated the emergence of a civil society outside the organized one by the Workers' Party. North Korea is the last country in the world which still has a Stalinist-type gulag. North Korea is ranked by all the human rights organizations as the most repressive state in the world, and rightly so. In North Korea, there is no freedom of conscience, no freedom of thought, no religious freedom, no freedom of expression, no freedom of association and assembly, and of course, no political freedom. 3 years ago, the UN Commission of Inquiry on the Human Rights in the Democratic Republic of Korea, established by the Human Rights Council in 2013, published a report documenting wide-ranging and ongoing crimes against humanity. A wide array of crimes against humanity arising from policies established at the highest level of the state have been committed and continue to take place in North Korea, concluded the UN report, which also called for urgent action by the international community to address the human rights situation in the country, including referral to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. In a 400-page set of linked reports and supporting documents based on first-hand testimony from victims and witnesses, the UN Commission of Inquiry on Human Rights in North Korea has documented in great detail what they call the unspeakable atrocities committed in the country. The gravity, scale, and nature of these violations reveal a state that does not have any parallel in the contemporary world, the Commission said. These crimes against humanity entailed extermination, murder, enslavement, torture, imprisonment, rape, forced abortions of repatriated pregnant women who were in China, sexual violence, persecution on political grounds, racial and gender grounds, the forcible transfer of populations, the enforced disappearance of persons, and the inhumane act of knowingly causing prolonged starvation. The reason is that the policies, institutions, and patterns of impunity that lie at their heart remain in place. The report cites evidence provided by individual victims and witnesses, including the harrowing treatment meted out to political prisoners, some of whom said they would catch snakes and mice to feed malnourished babies in the camps. Others told of watching family members being murdered in prison camps and of defenseless inmates being used for martial arts practices. The Commission found that North Korea, and I quote, displays many attributes of a totalitarian state. There is an almost complete denial of the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, as well as of the rights of opinion, expression, information, and association, the report says. State surveillance permeates private lives, and virtually no expression critical of the political system goes undetected or unpunished. The key to the political system is the vast political and security apparatus that strategically uses surveillance, coercion, fear, and punishment to preclude the expression of any dissent. Public executions and enforced disappearance to political prison camps serve as the ultimate means to terrorize the population into submission, the report states. The unspeakable atrocities that are being committed against inmates of the Kwan Lizo political prison camps resemble the horrors of camps that totalitarian states established during the 20th century. The institutions and officials involved are not held accountable. Impunity reigns. It is estimated that between 80,000 and 120,000 political prisoners are currently detained in 4 large political prison camps where deliberate starvation has been used as a means of control and punishment. The report also denounces patterns of discrimination rooted in the Songbirn system, which classifies people, as it was said before, on the basis of state-assigned social class and birth. It also includes consideration of political opinions and religion, and determines where they live, work, study, and even whom they may marry. Violations of the freedom of movement and residence are also heavily driven by discrimination based on the Songbirn system. Those considered politically loyal to the regime can live and work in favorable locations, such as Pyongyang, accessible to tourists. Others are relegated to a lower status. For example, the distribution of food has prioritized those deemed useful for the survival of the current political system at the expense of others who are expendable. Confiscation and dispossession of food from those in need and the provision of food to other groups follow this logic. The state has consistently failed in its obligation to use the maximum of its available resources to feed those who are hungry. Military spending, predominantly on hardware and the development of weapons systems and the nuclear program, has always been prioritized during periods of mass starvation. These crimes are sourced in decisions and policies violating the universal human right to food, the report of the UN says. Violation of the rights to food and to freedom of movement have resulted in women and girls becoming vulnerable to trafficking and forced sex work outside North Korea. Many take the risk to flee, mainly to China, despite the high chance that they will be apprehended and forcibly repatriated, then subjected to submission to persecution, torture, prolonged arbitrary detention, and, in some cases, sexual violence. Repatriated women who are pregnant are regularly subjected to forced abortion, and babies born to repatriated women are often killed, the report states. And 10 years ago, I interviewed quite a number of these women who were victims of forced abortion. The UN Commission urged all states to respect the principle of non-refoulement. It means not to forcibly return refugees to their home country. The Commission also found that since 1950, the state's violence has been externalized through state-sponsored abductions and enforced disappearances of people from other nations. This happened with Japanese citizens, for example. These international disappearances are unique in their intensity, scale, and nature. And there were not only Japanese citizens, but also some from some European countries. The report also includes a letter sent by the commissioners to the Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un, containing a summary of their most serious findings, in particular the fact that, in many instances, the systematic, widespread, and gross human rights violations entail crimes against humanity, and drawing attention to the principles of command and superior responsibility under international criminal law, according to which military commanders and civilian superiors can incur personal criminal responsibility for failing to prevent and repress crimes against humanity. In the letter to Kim Jong-un, the commissioners of the UN stated that it would recommend referral to the situation in North Korea to the International Criminal Court, and I quote, to render accountable all those, including possibly yourself, Mr. Kim Jong-un, who may be responsible for the crimes against humanity referred to in this letter and in the Commission's report. 3 years have passed since the UN Commission of Inquiry on the situation of human rights in the Democratic Republic of Korea presented to the Human Rights Council its findings that crimes against humanity had been and were being committed in the country. Regrettably, the situation has not improved in North Korea, and the crimes against humanity documented by the Commission appear to continue. I had prepared a few more pages about the right to life in North Korea, about the abduction of Japanese citizens, about refugees and defectors, also freedom of religion, but I will just focus on the main topic of this conference related to freedom of expression, freedom of information, and then I will conclude. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, North Korea is the second most censored country worldwide. And in the 2016 World Press Freedom Index of Reporters Without Borders, it is ranked 179 out of 180 countries. So there is a consensus on the situation. All domestic media outlets are run by the state. TVs and radios are permanently fixed to state channels, and all publications are subject to strict supervision and censorship. North Korea's regime employs an elaborate system to jam radio waves streaming in and criminalizes individuals who are caught listening. Yet, defectors have shared that they and their friends would clandestinely listen to foreign radio programs that were able to circumvent the country's jamming systems. Examples of radio programs that broadcast into North Korea include Voice of America, Radio Free Asia, Radio Free Chosun, North Korea Reform Radio, Free North Korea Radio, etc. Access to the global internet is restricted to a small number of people in the government and in academia, and others have access to a national intranet on which foreign websites are blocked. The black market provides alternative information sources, including Chinese mobile telephones, pirated recordings of South Korean dramas, and radios capable of receiving foreign programs. Mobile phone services were launched in 2008. As of 2015, there were more than 3 million subscriptions, though phone calls and text messages are generally recorded by the regime and transcribed for monitoring purposes. In a book called North Korea's Hidden Revolution, How the Information Underground is Transforming a Closed Society, the author, Jun Baek, states that North Korea is not anymore an impenetrable black box. Media flow covertly into the country, and fault lines are appearing in the government's sealed informational borders. Through detailed observation, exhaustive research, and extensive interviews with defectors, she reveals a society undergoing tremendous change and becoming connected to the world as never before. Despite the best efforts of the regime to control the information flow into and out of North Korea, the country is undergoing an information revolution, she says, with far-reaching and unpredictable effects. The smuggling out of Bandi's book collection of 7 short novels shows that there might be a pressing need among dissenting North Korean intellectuals to communicate with the outside world. The smuggling channels exist and have already been used for business between North Korea and China. Reading Bandi's stories on radio programs reaching North Korea and calling for more literary works or testimonies to be shared on the air might be the necessary incentive to encourage the production and the flow of samizdat literature and writings, as this existed at the time of the Soviet Union and the Cold War in the West. To conclude, with a positive note, despite all these atrocities that I have listed, despite his brutality, Kim Jong-un is more and more losing control over its population on several battlefields. First, the information battlefield. Second, the development of underground market economy, leading to corruption. 3, the international financial transactions between defectors and their families out of reach of any state control. 4, the challenge faced by the official Juche ideology with the activities of South Korean and other Protestant missionary organizations, missionary groups, planting secret or discreet house churches in North Korea. The alienation of the North Korean people from the regime of Kim Jong-un is growing every day. And this dynamics is, I think, irreversible. The best way for us to support this sort of peaceful resistance of the North Koreans is to help them enlarging the gap between the people and their leader. Thank you very much for your attention.